So Chanel, you were able to get get the panelist IDs to Emily and Sarah?
Yes, I sent it to them.
Great. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, all.
Hey, Bruce.
Hi, James.
Hey, James.
Hi, James. Hi, Bruce.
Double James and Debbie.
And a bridge.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Hello.
We won't have our assistant chair, Leo, tonight. I think his agency had a holiday event this evening. Which, by the way, I feel like we haven't heard anything about a CB12 holiday event. Which would be disappointing because I feel like last year getting to see people in person for a lot of us, it was the first time seeing people, meeting people. It was glorious. It's absolutely glorious.
Why don't you whisper into our chairperson's ear?
Yeah, exactly. It just occurred to me today when Leo said that he would be not able to attend tonight. Oh, Maria, I'm glad you're here. Hello. Chanel, can you promote Jackie Lazaro? And so I'm talking, but we have not called to order. I just want to say, Allegra, I'm sorry I didn't get to bounce back, so I'm going to cover in my updates. I will respond to your email, which was very smart and I appreciated. And Julie Weinstein will get, as we discussed, I'll come back to you when we get to old business. And then we'll get you promoted at that time.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right, I just need to give it a few more minutes because we may have a little bit of a quorum challenge tonight. So, which I feel like we've never had, so it would be a first. But
Do we need to call Marshall? Is Marshall on the committee officially?
he is not. He's not. What? He's a public member of housing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
What about Jay?
Yeah,
Isn't he-
Jay. Yeah, Jay's where I think our hopes need to be.
I'll text him.
And then, yeah, let me just give it one more minute and then we'll get started come what may. All right, so we have Jim.
We can't wait until May.
Uh,
He doesn't always respond when I text him, like he'll call me a day later, so, but hopefully he saw it.
I wasn't clear if he texted, period.
Sometimes he does, but usually what happens is there's some piece of news that I'll text him, and then, like I said, the next day he'll call me to talk about it.
Hmm.
Hi, Maria.
Are we planning to?
Sorry,
pass
I'm
any
muted. How you
resolutions?
doing?
Hello. Are we
Bruce,
planning
good
to
to speak
pass?
with you.
Are we planning to pass any resolutions tonight? In which case the quorum isn't necessary.
Um,
Sort.
yes, but if we will just do the best we can. We'll just do the best we can and have the presentation and a discussion and,
Maybe Jay will
for,
show up.
yeah, and we'll do what we, yeah. All right, I don't want to delay further. Thank you, Chanel. I will try to make some notes, but can I have a backup note taker and then I'll consolidate if somebody thinks. So Bruce, between us, that way if I tune out, then you can tune in. Welcome, December 5th, 2022, Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. My name is Debbie Nabavian. I chair this committee. Tonight, so far from the committee, we have Jim Berlin and Bruce Robertson. From the broader board, we have James Bosley and Maria Luna. And let me just take a quick look. Okay, at our attendees. From DOT, Lyle couldn't be here, but Jackie Lazaro, who I know has covered this committee before in recent times, has joined us tonight. Jackie, thank you for taking the time with us this evening. So I guess what I'd like to do, I don't have any big updates. But I just want to say a couple of things before we, and then I will introduce, okay, there we go, Jay Mazer. So we're crawling towards quorum. We actually, if I have it correct, we have an even number of committee members right now. So I don't even know what quorum is for us, but at 4, hopefully that'll be enough.
Quorum is still one more than half, so we'd need 5.
Yeah. Okay, so we have on the agenda tonight, I have Open Plans here, who's going to talk to us about some issues related to our streets, and work that Open Plans has done on a series of model resolutions about our streets and policy. And so I'll get into that in a moment. So that's our main agenda item tonight. And I did carve out one idea that maybe we could reso on, but if we needed to kick it forward, I think we can make that work as well. And Sarah's nodding, and yeah, we'll definitely put it together. In old business, there has been some action and a lot of organizing around continued issues at one of our favorite intersections at CB12 TNT committee, the 5-way intersection on 158th Street and 12 other things. So as we know, we sort of have dealt with that in the past, and then changes are made. But now the residents obviously have watched it go for a while now and have some serious concerns. And so I've given a few minutes to Julie Weinstein, and I'm glad Maria Luna's here, because I'm sure she has information on it, and Bruce as well has talked to me about this. So anyway, Julie's going to talk to us a little bit during old business and bring us up to speed about the conversations that the group has had with DOT, with borough president, et cetera, and see where we might fit into that. And then the last thing I still want to say by way of update, and it's sort of, we've come at it one way, but Allegra Legrand contacted me about this, is the idea of having more consistent reporting every month on crashes on our streets in CB12, which I think is a great idea. And as we all know, because I think most of us in the committee have looked at it at one point or another, there is Crash Mapper. And so you can see, you know, was it like car, bike, car, pedestrian, was there a serious injury, etc. And so I think that's an excellent idea. So my idea would be like one of us on the committee would take responsibility for just looking at Crash Mapper each month before the meeting, or maybe we could rotate it, but I'd love to do it. So like, you know, maybe just people can email me later if they're like interested in looking that up, because I do think we should be more data informed. And I mean, I know a lot of us have a sense for sort of areas that feel vulnerable and dangerous, but we should have that at our fingertips, just the way public safety goes through numbers each month. So yeah, I love the idea.
Debbie,
yeah.
does Public Safety Committee actually report on this or no?
They don't. I mean, that's sort of a larger macro issue, which is that which I said I was going to do something and I did half of it, not the other half, but which is because the traffic enforcement command doesn't go to the Public Safety Committee, you know, like the 34th obviously sends somebody and they talk about crime stuff and statistics and numbers, and same happens, you know, for the 33rd. It doesn't, it's that, you know, they don't come to the monthly meeting. Now, Ebenezer said he was going to start to try to wrap that back in. He said, because there used to be somebody that would come to DS, to District Service Cabinet. And so he was going to reach out to see if we could start sort of having, I mean, that was more on this subject of traffic enforcement writ large, but suffices to say, it's not happening right now. And
Okay, thank you.
yeah, but yeah, so we do
It's
need to come
not
back.
really crime, so it's not public safety, but it is crime because people are getting hit and killed and whatever.
You know, and as long as, I mean, they do have the nexus in that they are the enforcement arm. So, but yeah, so just let that ferment, and then I'd love if there was a taker to kind of do that each month, or again, we can split it up. Okay, so coming back to our agenda item, which is Open Plans is a nonprofit advocacy group focused on making New York City streets livable for all. They've built out a series of model community board resolutions on things like curbside use, loading zones, daylighting intersections, so like safety, bus transit, bike lanes, bike parking, placards, public space management. I'm sure I'm missing some things. And so they have shared with me some information about these model resolutions that they're developing, and sort of, you know, meeting community boards and sort of socializing those and see where there's interest. And so I asked Open Plans to come tonight to talk to us specifically about what's referred to as home rule as our sort of first foray. And what I've told them is I would like to see us do something in the future about curbside management and priorities at the curb. Maybe, and I don't know, whatever we thought, if we thought there was anything else in there that we might like to take on, they can talk to us a little bit about the policy underpinnings of these various subjects. So what I've done in this case is, so home, and then obviously Sarah and Emily, I don't mean to, like, obviously you can introduce yourselves and all of that. We've not really done something like this in committee before. So I just wanted to give a little more context about sort of my thinking about this. But, you know, one thing that we have heard a lot about since all the bad things that started to happen with people's driving during the pandemic is, you know, or all the sort of safety issues and people's frustration that we, New York City, don't control speed cameras, and we don't control, and this is even more hair raising, that we don't control red light cameras, and we're super restricted on we have very few red light cameras. And these are things that make the world a whole lot safer. But anyway, because we've received so much feedback over time about really bad, like, you know, feeling like people are driving in a way and that there's not enough enforcement, and it sort of feels like when you're walking on the street that you observe all these things and you never see somebody getting pulled over for it, and it's absolutely terrifying. I decided, like, this would be, sorry, my dog just got home, that this would be just a good small one to start with. So I sort of took a crack tailoring a resolution, if we chose to go in that direction, sort of drawing upon their template and kind of personalizing it for what I thought was a little bit more maybe how our take on it would go. But again, we can do with this what we will, and if there's not enough interest, then we won't. But boy, you know, yeah, it was something that interested me for sure. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Emily and to Sarah from Open Plans.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Debbie. My name is Emily, and I do citywide advocacy at Open Plans. We are a nonprofit that advocates for safe and joyful public spaces in the city. And one of the ways that we hope to do this is by activating community members and giving them the right tools and resources to advocate for projects in the public realm. So we created some model resolutions to share with community board members, not just in hopes that they will pass them, but also to present communities with different potential projects and ideas that they could have in their districts. So I encourage folks to check out our website and take a look at some of our model resolutions and also some of our campaigns that we are working on if you're interested in learning more. And the resolutions are all iterative, and we would love some feedback on them. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or comments on them. I'll drop my email and link to the resolutions in the chat. And yeah, I'll pass this over to Sarah, our Chief Strategy Officer, and she will go into more detail on the home rule resolution. Thanks all.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. So hi, I'm Sarah Lind. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Open Plans. And I'll just say I am on my community board, CP7, on the Upper West Side. So I honor your service. I know what a service it is to give up your weeknights. Which was actually kind of what inspired me to start this process, because I know, we're all volunteers and we don't necessarily have the time to do all the research and take the time writing in-depth resolutions, but we obviously all want to do really good work on the community board. So, we spent time with various staff and volunteers thinking about issues the community board can speak on. And like Emily said, this is very iterative, as much kind of educational and conversation starting as please pass this. Although of course we'd love for you to pass resolutions. So, I'd be happy to talk through any and all of them, but I'll talk about home rule right now. So as Debbie mentioned, New York City does not currently have control over both the cameras, speed and red light cameras, and also I'll just throw in our speed limit as well. So for any of those things, we have to go to Albany for authorization. So for the speed cameras and red light cameras, they're technically pilot programs. So we have to go back every 2 years and get them reauthorized. And I'll just say, I luckily am not someone who has lost a person to traffic violence, but we work closely with Families for Safe Streets, which is an organization explicitly for people who've lost friends or loved ones or family members to, a crash or something like that. And this is a group of people who turn their pain into advocacy. And they go up every 2 years to Albany to express why we need these cameras. But it's really heartbreaking that they have to, pour out their tragic stories every 2 years just to convince legislators to give us authorization. I've been with them in the room while they do it, and it's really heartbreaking and tragic. So part of the reason for asking for home rule is so they don't have to go back every 2 years and do that, but also, we're New York City, we're special in the state, and it doesn't feel like upstate legislators should be, weighing in on what we do in our city. We have a DOT that is perfectly capable of making those decisions around the city, and being able to do it where and when they feel that it's needed would really give us a lot of ability to, as Debbie mentioned, really manage these issues much better. I'll just say about cameras, there's a lot of evidence that they work really well. And the vast majority of people only get 1 or 2 tickets, and then they realize, that this is a thing, and they change their behavior. So it's really good at changing behavior, whereas tickets given by law enforcement are not so good because people think, I keep an eye out, I'll see, there's not that many, they're busy with other things, like, I could probably get away with it. Whereas they realize automated enforcement is going to do it every time. So, and then another thing we like about it is that it is objective and unbiased. You don't have to worry about, police being more likely to pull over an older car that looks, like a kind of a junker, or they see, a black or brown person driving it. These tickets are objective. They go to anyone who breaks the law. And, I know, like Debbie said, we've seen such a huge increase in traffic deaths since the pandemic. So this is really life-saving technology. So then just to finish up, the home rule would basically say we want Albany to give New York City home rule. And then we would be able to do, all of this management of the policy ourselves. And also we want our city council to ask for home rule because it has to go both ways. So encouraging the council to ask for home rule and the state legislator to give it to us. So that's a broad overview, and happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
Let me just say a couple things before, and then we'll start with Bruce, who has a hand up. But one thing that was stunning to me, just about like how much impact this has on making our streets safer, is that red light running increased by over 50%, as documented by the red light cameras that we do have, between the second half of 2019 and the second half of 2021. I mean, so we all knew it, we could feel it during the pandemic, but over 50%, that's a staggering statistic. And that in 2019, T-bone crashes causing injuries fell as much as 58% at red light camera locations. So this feels like something that shouldn't be limited. And if Albany, they seem to feel they need to give us like 2 cameras for our 13,000 intersections. So it seems like, well, if they can't do it properly, then maybe they should give it back to us. Bruce, and just unmute. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Sarah, Emily, thank you very much. This is all new to me. So how has the Department of Transportation Chairman Adonis Rodriguez, who used to be our city council representative, how is he standing on all of this?
Yeah, so they were a strong ally in our fight we had to get reauthorization of the speed cameras last session. So he's strongly in favor of all of these things, and fought hard in Albany to get that reauthorization. And actually, in the last session in Albany, we also expanded it. So it used to be only 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and we would see a huge spike in speeding and crashes and injuries on the overnight hours. And so he fought really hard to get it to 24/7. And we immediately saw like a decrease in crashes and injuries in those areas once the speed cameras went on 24/7. So the administration and the DOT, are in favor of this. They briefly asked for full home rule last session and then saw they weren't going to get it. So they kind of dialed back to just the reauthorization of the speed cameras. But I think there's a lot of appetite in the city for full home rule.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll say one more thing about the sort of logistics of asking for it. Jim, you had a hand up?
Yes. Ever since, and I suppose it was a long time ago, I heard about the fact that, we don't have home rule in this city for so many things. I was outraged then. I'm just as outraged now, that and probably what's even more disgusting, because I believe we still have Democratic majorities in both houses of the legislature, that they just don't give the city. In fact, it's probably true not just of us, but of Yonkers and Buffalo as well. We have these politicians who somehow think they have the right to meddle in how New York City operates itself, and they don't know nothing about what we do. They've never been here. They probably won't come. And it's been an outrage. And now the thing is, we can pass a resolution that we would like it. That's not going to do a hell of a lot, but I mean, that's pretty much all we can do, I suppose.
Well, if I'll just speak on my own behalf, not necessarily on, on behalf of Open Plans, but I think the reason why they like it is because it's a bargaining piece. Last session, they were bargaining with Eric Adams over various things the city wanted, and this just gave them power over us. So it's really frustrating. People's lives are at stake. But I will say, on a kind of a hopeful, optimistic note, I know it can feel like if you pass this resolution, it doesn't do anything. But, I think if we get a lot of community boards all around the city to pass this resolution, it really does show that there's a real desire for this. And, it impacts our elected officials to push this in Albany. Every day, elected officials are making choices about the issues they're giving attention to and pushing, and they hear from you about what you want them to do. So I know it can feel a little hopeless, but I really don't think it is.
Okay, so then, and there is a piece that, while there's a lot of support by, in the city for this, obviously, I don't know who would not support it, but I mean, of the elected, but as a point of fact, the mayor must, the city council has to direct the mayor, but the mayor has to send what's called a home rule message.
Yeah.
And did not do so in time for this recent negotiation, where it did ultimately, though, at least get us 24 hours on the speed cameras. So I will, after we have James Bosley and then Jay Mazer, actually I'm gonna have to go Jay and James, because James, you're not on the committee yet, but boy, I my fingers crossed it soon. Well, you will wait, but hopefully. But so I think that, well, I'll put up on the screen after the next two hands, like the sort of a draft resolution, and we can discuss whether we want to do it. But that part, I think I don't have in the draft, was sort of the specifics of it. In one sense, it's really like also asking the mayor to do so, because that has not been the case. Jay? Just unmute, Jay.
First of all, in response to, I think this is a real good idea and I support it. But I don't know that home rule per se is always a good thing. I think in the last several years, broadly in New York politics, the last two New York mayors have had some really lame-brained ideas that were not acted on or were corrected in Albany. And furthermore, these horrible people in Albany we're talking about, it's worth remembering, 1/2 the state assembly comes from New York City. And I believe 1 or 2 less than half the state Senate comes from New York City. So I'm not in any broad sense convinced that in every issue, these people know less than the current city government. I do think this is, however, an excellent resolution. And let me finish by supporting it again.
Thanks, Jay. Good point. James?
Hi, just out of curiosity, I don't understand the technology. The cameras at intersections lower the crash rates. I'm all for that. How do drivers know where these cameras are? I mean, I'm a cyclist and I go down the street. I don't notice cameras. So how does that work exactly?
Well, ideally, they don't know, right? And so they think, well, they could be anywhere, so I have to always drive better. That said, apps like Waze often do kind of find where they are and alert drivers that they're coming.
Okay.
But, you know, like I said, I think the way it ideally works is that you don't know, so you just always drive better.
And after a while, they catch on.
Yeah. So, you know, once, like I said, once people get a ticket in the mail, they usually say, oh, okay, I guess I better get my act together. You know, there's a very small subset of drivers who rack up, you know, dozens, even 100 or more of these tickets, but that's a very few number of drivers. Most people, you know, want to obey the law and they realize that this is how it works and they.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That answers my question.
It's a fascinating graphic. And Sarah, I don't know if I saw it in your materials or some TA materials that like you said, people need to get 2 tickets by and large. And I'm not saying there aren't a few, but the curve comes down, it goes 1, 2, and then it really drops. And yeah, there's a few diehards that, you know, whatever, that's their thing, I guess. But it's a pretty good, it's just so effective. And again, you don't, you know, to sort of take police contact out of it. I mean, there's a million reasons that's a good idea. Like, you know, they can only do so much. There's a lot of streets.
And also just to say, you know, the tickets are only $50. So it's not, you know, it's not a huge burden on people, whereas a ticket given by a police officer is higher. So the fact that we can kind of change behavior with a relatively, you know, non-punitive amount is also really great.
Exactly. It's for both speeding and for red light. I mean, I think years ago I've gotten a red light camera, and I guess there's something in the law because it's not been a person who observed you and that whatever. So it's $50. So you learn your lesson. You didn't face a $200 ticket.
And also because it's given to the car, not the driver, it doesn't take any points off your license. So, you know, it's a pretty innocuous ticket.
So
I hope it works.
and I agree. Like, I'm normally not the person who goes after resolutions that I don't feel like are really going to change anything. Like, I don't like the resolutions that we sometimes do that are just like, this legislation in Albany is good. I'm like, well, we're the community board. I don't care. But I do think that, again, this is just, it just seems so clear, and maybe if other community boards pick it up, at least there'll be just sort of that will to say, all right, we know that this is something that goes into a horse trade, but perhaps we can, give the will or give the support to the mayor to ultimately do this. 1 second. So actually, let me just share my screen.
Can I ask a quick question, Debbie?
Please. Oh, unmute, Bruce. You were unmuted, now you got muted. Okay, now you're good.
Yeah. There are 12 community boards in Manhattan. How many others have you gotten some kind of resolution or support for this besides what we're doing?
Y'all are the first, so we're super excited to be here. We just, put these resolutions out and started sending them around very recently. But we've sent them to a lot. So we'll keep working. Emilie's out there working
So we'll be
hard.
the leaders. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah, we had a little in, so I got early access to this project. Let's see. Okay, so let me just go through what's here and then what I think maybe needs to be tweaked. In the opening, and maybe I don't need to have it, but just a little bit about New York State Legislature being in control. Only as recently as this August did what we do have in terms of speed cameras move to 24/7. 2021 was a terrible year for traffic fatalities, and also for red light violations. Obviously this stuff really works is sort of the next whereas. And then this was staggering to me. Albany allows the city of New York to operate red light cameras at 150 of 13,250 signalized intersections citywide. And they limit speed cameras to school zones. So basically this great tool to efficiently make our streets safer is not at our disposal, sort of writ large. Whatever, another whereas on automated enforcement is good. I'd like this one needs to be filled out a little bit, but the last whereas sort of speaks to that we have had discussions and resolutions related to the safety issues on our streets from excessive speeding, drag racing, etc.
Yeah, we could add motorcycles to that too, all the up and down Broadway.
Oh yeah, and they would have plates, so they could be potentially ticketed.
Good question. I don't know, but
I mean, I guess that's the issue. Some do, some don't. And then, so for now, I just have one resolved for immediately authorizing home rule for City of New York. So I think that I just need to sort of refine that a little bit to sort of speak to, we're asking something of City Council, we're asking something of the mayor, but should we keep it just to City Council? And then by definition, they're the ones who have to direct the mayor, to send this home rule message. So should we just keep it focused on the City Council? And then do we want this, who's the audience for this? Do we want this pointed at the council speaker? I mean,
don't we send it to everybody?
Yeah, I would do it to all of them.
Mayor and City Council speaker, and then I guess our own City Council member. I think our own City Council member is on the record already, so I'm not so worried about that. Okay, so, but I mean, so this is a resolution. Do I make a motion to pass a resolution in favor of home rule? I seem to have a lot of seconds, Bruce.
I have my hands raised because I have.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I know that you didn't. My question is, how many? What is the analysis on the 3.3 and the 3.4 area for this 100 and what do I call it, 150, this red light camera, 150 areas. How many of those are considered for our area? And do we have a number, specific numbers of violation, in our community board 12 area? I don't see the numbers listed here. Just you are saying about Albany allowed the city of York to operate red lights camera at 150 or the 1,300, 250 standard intersection. How many of those intersections are we talking about within our community board 12 areas?
That's an excellent question. Sarah, how do we find that out?
I honestly don't think you can, because again, like the idea is that people don't know where they are, but I'm not positive on that. But I mean, I would guess that they're relatively evenly distributed around the city. And I do think that they're placed generally at like dangerous intersections, right? Like that they identify some more dangerous intersections and place them there. But
I don't
you
think
have a
we
DOT rep on the call, right?
My guess is that they're not evenly distributed, that they are at dangerous intersections, but I think that they are concentrated. I would actually be shocked if we had that many, but like there are places like Atlantic Avenue,
Yeah.
like in Bond Street, like places where people kind of develop a head of steam, but like I could see them, and that's just my guess, but that's an excellent question, Maria, because and just like I am a little bit of a driver. It's like you certainly know it when you went through a yellow, and you can sort of see something flash sometimes, but I've never seen anything or heard of anybody say they got snagged on a red light camera in our district, but that's obviously a small sample size.
All right, so
Maria?
I have a very short comment, and that's the reason why Bruce just mentioned that we are going to be the number one community board that is going to come up with this type of solution, and I think we should prove that this is a crisis in our community board area in order for us to push citywide resolution and changes. We have seen the problem that we have in the city about changing, making all these changes that is affecting areas, and then finding out that those areas that they are talking about are really not on the crisis mode. So I'm sorry, I'd hate to abstain on resolution. I usually say yes or no. I can say no. I just don't, I'm tossed on this thing. I'm not a member of the committee. I'm just a member of community board. I don't want to just, as a president of community council, the 3-3, find, vote for something that is going to hit me and in the future. So I just want to make that clarification.
I mean, I don't know why,
Why should we be the first one? Why should we be the first one on this type of resolution that citywide?
Why not?
We are talking about 13,250 intersection, and we just don't know what is happening up here.
Well, I mean, I think actually what is an excellent point is that it is, it's always touchy to do things on policy. And what we should do is have the fatality and serious injury on our CB12, the data, like we should have a whereas on like, what is the situation on our streets and the sort of problems of safety on our streets and how many people have been injured on our streets.
But they have no number. She just said that they have no number. So how can we just say we put an
no, we don't know how many red light cameras are in our district, but we do know
about the numbers of casualties.
Yeah, we have the number that we can get off Crash Mapper. That's reported and available, and if it's how the injuries and fatalities, and with that we can get. Bruce, you had something else, and then
yeah, Maria, I'm not sure what you're concerned about. If we're the first ones to propose this or support it, what's the problem?
I am not saying that I will, it doesn't merit. What I'm concerned about that the numbers are not specific for our community board to be the lead community board on this
Okay,
type of resolution.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Allegra, did you have you have a hand from this discussion? And I apologize to you if you did. Wait, let me unshare for a moment so I can see you. Okay. Allegra, tell me if you can unmute now. Okay, good.
Oh, okay. Okay, super. Thanks, Debbie. So I had a comment which was, there seems to be a lot of savvy, persistent speeders, red light runners who have figured out that speed cameras or red light cameras that only take a picture of your license plate are pretty easy to defeat. So I think adding a whereas that says, you know, any method to identify, to determine who the vehicle, and the speed light cameras, that might mean that you have some downward facing ones that can also snap the VIN as a car goes by. Or I think it's, the AI is pretty easy to train to, if you have like 4 or 5 of the license plate digits plus the make and model of the car, which can be automatically identified, you can also identify which vehicle has been speeding. Or it would, maybe one day New York State will have some sort of RFID chip or near field communication that's built into the license plate. So I guess when you write this, make it flexible enough so that as technological advances happen, we can capitalize on them. And so that's one comment. And my other comment is, given that the speed light network is vastly undersampling the streets in the city, there are, laws of physics that cars must still follow. They cannot get between 2 points going the speed limit below a certain threshold, and that we should be open to those kinds of identifications, given the unwillingness of New York State to provide for adequate sampling of speeding in our neighborhoods. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Allegra. Yeah, I mean, the obscured placard thing, I don't think I per se want to take on in that. Like, to me, it's sort of, that affects any program. I mean, there is, I mean, not that I want to lose that issue. There actually is in the package of model resolutions and open plans, there's a whole thing on placards, which is somewhat separate from the number of people that are obscuring their license plates so they don't get back. So but that I'd like to leave to the NYPD for now. Like, I think they are, like trying to get at all this nonsense with license plates. But I take the point, and if there's something that I can do to tweak the language to make sure that, we're encouraging them to also expand the technology beyond the very flat way that it's currently done, I will do so. Jim?
Thank you. I'm glad Allegra brought up the fact that there is additional technology that can be used. But on the other hand, all of this stuff has to come with safeguards. The prime example, and then this is one of the reasons that speed cameras have gotten such a bad reputation, is they were originally done by private companies, and the private companies would share the profits with the municipality or other, government that hired them. And then they would cheat on the cameras. They'd shorten the time to less than it was. And, basically they were cheating the residents just to make money. And that's an old example, but it shows what is possible for the bad guys to do. And I think none of us, I mean, to some degree, when you drive your car around, when you walk around in public, you're in the public domain. But on the other hand, so I think we just have to have a be it resolved in there that, appropriate safeguards, security safeguards be maintained. And then, the other thing, of course, and it's all part of the same thing. Again, it just needs a sentence. And of course, it should be it resolved because this is some action we want them to take. Whatever data needs to be secure is properly secured. If I'm one of these idiots who likes to drive through, school zones or something, so let's say I like to drive through red lights because I'm psychotic. Well, maybe in that case, everybody should know who I am, but you see my point. Stuff that is nobody else's business except the authorities is just that. So, and again, all we have to do, because we're writing a resolution, is just mention it. There must be these various safeguards so the technology is not abused, whatever. And I'm a great fan of my colleague Maria Luna, but I think this is so important for saving lives, especially if we get more than this ridiculous handful of cameras. I mean, there are intersections all over this community where people drive like idiots. And if they could be photographed and, maybe after 2 or 3 times, they won't do it anymore. Well, then that would be a good thing. So I'm happy to be at the forefront of this.
I just want to say HK Dunstan dropped into the Q&A. It's not an official source, but an unofficial source of speed cameras and red light cameras. And it looks like we actually have a couple. So if somebody wants to kind of click and look at that, I'm having a hard time doing 2 things at the same time, but it looks like oh, right. I think there might be one when you come off the highway on Riverside, off the Dykeman exit, it looks like. And then
There's one at 158 too, I believe.
yeah, all right. I can't do 2 things at one time. So, so let's, all right. So if this gets passed, then, I'll share the Google Doc and then we can sort of fill in some idea just about, again, the sort of data that talks about our crash data, and then also what we think we have so far, based on unofficial sources. So I made a motion. Bruce, was that a second that you waved at me, or was that you saying I have another comment?
No, I think it was a first, but I may have been a second, but we approved doing this resolution.
Well, let me just do a roll call. I'll have you as a first and me as a second. How about that? And then so Jim, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Jay Mazer?
Yes.
Mary Anderson?
Yes.
And Bruce, you're a yes, and I'm a yes. And okay. And James Bosley?
Yes.
And Maria Luna?
I'm going to abstain. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, awesome. So we've got a resolution. It'll take a little tweaking, but we've got most of it. I'll share that out with everybody. And then I'll also share out the whole package that Open Plans shared with, I think they've also put it in here. So that if people have an interest in maybe selecting another one for 2023, another 2 for 2023, just have a peruse through that. that will be great. Emily, did you have something you wanted to say?
Hi, yes. I couldn't add any links to the chat, so I emailed them to you separately. If you could copy that, and that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, is that the link I had, is that still good, or you just pick it up from your email?
No, that same link works, and I also added our website and then my email as well.
Okay, great. Let me just drop that in. Oh, great. Oh, wait. I don't think I can drop it in. HK, can you drop it in? I think because we're panelists. No, that can't be. Maybe I'm just being idiotic.
No, that's exactly what it is. There are all kinds of things panelists cannot do.
So
You can just send out the, send out the email. to the
yeah, I
rest
can send out
of
the
us.
email and then HK, if you're able to drop in the URL to the Google Doc in case anybody else attendee wants to pick it up, that'd be great.
She just did. She just did. She sent it to us.
Gracias. All right, so with that, thank you to everybody for that discussion and the resolution. I think it's sort of interesting. Again, I know it's not the usual thing that we do. Sarah and Emily, HK, thanks for being here. And we'll continue talking about this. And yeah, especially Sarah, you have a lot of nights with your own community board, so good luck trooping around to others. I hope we can get some other ones to join with us on this one as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. It's great to be here.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, bye-bye. I also want to greet Marshall. Nice to see you. Brandon, good to see you. All right, so with that, I am going to ask Chanel, can we promote Julie Weinstein? Yeah. And so I just want to listen. Julie can sort of summarize for us. I've given her, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes to summarize what's been going on with concerns about 158th Street. If people remember, the work that was done now, was it 2020? For Riverside Drive, particularly from the highway around the Oval, etc., was put in place. And to some extent, that kind of dealt with the intersection, but we also didn't go forward with everything that had been proposed at the time for contending with that intersection. So I am really interested to hear what's been happening and what this organizing has been around there, again, at the sort of call it 5-way intersection. All right, Julie, you can go ahead and unmute, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. So I have a brief amount of time. I'll be as quick as possible. This actually, we put a committee together at River Arts, actually because one of our community members was hit at a Broadway and 157th by somebody speeding around the corner. But our main issue is that 158th. And so we put together a petition, which we disseminated out in the community. And I think I sent it to you, Deborah. We have 312 signatures. We could probably get a lot more. We just haven't had the time to do that. Okay, I can't see anything. And basically, well, clearly we have 7 items that we were interested in, and clearly item number 1 is moot because it's about cameras. Clearly that's not, and in fact, when we talked to people on the street, that was one of the things they were most excited about, was the idea that there might be cameras.
Oh, so this is, okay, so good on us. Good on us.
So this is perfect timing, you know, and those of you who know that you know, that intersection, nobody cares about the red lights. Nobody cares about anything. The people are trying to shoot in front of the bus, and there have been near misses of shooting in front of the bus. It's, you know, it's a major issue because it's the way down to and up from the West Side Highway. And it's also the only way down to and up from people who want to go and park down at the park, you know, down on rivers, at the river. And so there's a huge amount of traffic, and it's really scary, but I don't need to tell you that because you know that. So along with the petition, and I'll go through, and I don't know if you can share it. I don't know how it came over to you, whether it was really well visible or not. But basically we did have a reporter from New York One who came down and interviewed a number of us. And there was a brief clip on the 10 o'clock news on a Friday night in September. That reporter also called DOT, and someone came down while he was there to take photos and look at what was going on. Sorry, I have this in a different place. We met with Eric Coelho and Porfirio Figueroa from Mark Levine's office. And they brought the issue up to the district service cabinet meeting in October. I don't know what this is. There were a whole bunch of agency people there.
Yeah, DOT would have been there.
DOT, the MTA, the local precincts, parks rep people, other agencies. And they sent the petition to the top representative at DOT, recommending that a study be conducted. Basically, we had 7 issues that we thought were really important. One was the cameras, which were not going to happen. A left turn signal being installed on Edward Morgan Place for cars that are turning left going down 158th Street. Because that seems to be one of the really dangerous issues, is all the cars turning left off of Edward Morgan seem to think that they have the right of way, and they don't care that they don't.
Right.
And also a left turn signal installed for cars coming up 158th Street when they're turning onto Riverside Drive, because when they stop to turn onto Riverside Drive, it creates this huge backup. To have to have the green yellow light crossing Riverside Drive, crossing Riverside Drive while the cars are going up and down 158th Street being extended, because the side that's by Riverside, where the Riverside upper and the Riverside lower are, is a really wide crossing, and there's not enough time, except unless you're like a really superly speedy person, there's not enough time to actually cross all the way before the light changes.
Right.
I know the bike lane was only put in 2015, but quite frankly, the bike lane appears to be one of the huge issues that creates problems there. It's the bikes and the e-bikes and everybody else who goes into the bike lane paying no attention to anything. And there are some people who think that's more dangerous actually than the cars. Although I know that that got put in because all the bike lanes were being put in, but there's another way to get down to the river with a great, bike path that was built off of at 153rd and Riverside. A larger island being created because when you're coming up 158th and you want to turn left, most people, if you don't know the neighborhood, you don't know that there's actually cars coming one way and cars going another way. And a lot of people turn into the cars coming towards them. I don't know how to explain this better, but I know it's
Well,
clear.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I think the committee is most important for the committee to hear is it's not, we can say to DOT, we have to try again with this intersection and it's still not safe for pedestrians, or going awesome for cars, it sounds like either. But it's not for us to engineer it per se. Like, I mean, I think these are good suggestions. So I think, so what I am hearing to summarize is so far is that, there's not enough time as a pedestrian to get across the upper roadway and the middle drive, because that's a really long distance. And that the back pressure when you're coming east on 158th Street from the highway and making a left, we're stacking people up, and I know I've been caught on that a million times. And so is there room for that? I dare say that might have been kind of looked at in the last go round, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, so I think we, because they really did look at that whole area. So some of this was supposed to be addressed, and it sounds like we're still not getting there. But right. So we have like pedestrians feeling exposed. Is there another spot where pedestrians are also feeling particularly exposed besides that crossing on 158th, like coming across upper roadway, middle roadway, etc.?
I think pedestrians are constantly feeling exposed because the cars and the e-bikes especially pay no attention whatsoever to the lights. The e-bikes couldn't care less about no bikes actually could care less about the lights. The cars say, oh my God, this is a long light. We don't want to wait, so we're just going to go through it anyway.
So you have a lot of blowing red lights.
Huge amounts of blowing red lights.
Okay.
But I think that the turn lane thing is more important. Edward Morgan turning left to go down 158.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more important than the other one.
Yeah. And then when you said people trying to cut off the bus, like get ahead of the bus, on which direction, on which street?
So this is the bus that's coming up the lower roadway of Riverside to go to the bus stop at 157th and Edward Morgan.
Going south.
The BX bus, yeah, going south. And so all the cars that want to turn left from Edward Morgan to go down 158th.
Oh, cut in front of the bus.
Are cutting in front of the bus. And I have seen like 1/8 of an inch. And I've seen bus drivers slam on brakes, and it's really scary.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna go plug in my computer. Give me a second. Bruce, do you have anything you want to fill in, or Maria, about this?
Maria, go ahead.
Well, I think the complication started when they put the bike line on 158 going down to the highway. You notice I mean, I know that they did studies about, adjusting people coming from Fort Washington down to Broadway and turning. One of the recommendations that we did was just get a bike lane going down by the museum and turning that area that was less complicated because traffic that is coming from the Bronx on 155th Street turn up Broadway, uptown to Broadway or downtown Broadway, and there is a like by the museum. Bruce, I think we remember we went through that and put in the bike, trying to stop the bicycle also around 157th Street and so on. But more specific about the traffic, if you come down Broadway and turn right, you now are turning right into the middle of the street because the bicycle lane, it takes a whole lot of space. Then there is a traffic coming up from the highway going up to Broadway, and the ambulances and things like that. We also spoke about the changing on the where I live on the middle, what we call the middle drive, making it like 2 lane. I mean, one way down south and another one going up and things like that. We have studied that area, at length. I don't, as a pedestrian, I am also on my more than middle age, that I have to be very careful about, walking and crossing streets and things like that. We have less accidents because of people are more conscious about, because of the bicycle lanes. And also we alleviated the issue when we put that middle, what you call it, in front of your building, Bruce, the 800, that alleviated also.
The median. Which
yeah.
everybody hates.
So I just don't know when we are talking about that speeding, and I live there, my building, my bedroom is on top of 158th Street going, so I know how the traffic flows up and down. Most of the things that are happening are the ambulances, because of the bike lane is limiting the flow of traffic on that particular area. So I don't know how that could be alleviated. Educating people is the most, issue, more common issue. Also that we don't have enough parking and the delivery places, UPS and we have it. So I just don't know how we're going to revisit that, this particular issue. But I just don't, I don't know that would be the solution. So maybe Bruce, you can, talk a little more, add a little more about this, because we've been going on and on and on this particular area. I think we have alleviated, because my mother was hit by a car years ago. So we have experiences on problems on that particular area, 158th Street, Morgan Place, but the bicycle lane is really an issue that we have to revisit.
So here, I think that, Julie, it's very easy for us to follow up with the with DOT because that is an area where they've spent a lot of time, and just keep up with them on sort of what they're seeing and how they think things are working. It feels like if we took out people running red lights, that would, if that wasn't happening at the level that it's happening, we might not be here having this conversation. Like, understanding that there are things like, the crossing time on Upper Roadway and Middle Roadway has been a consistent issue, and it was part of what they were trying to get to when they wanted to make it one way coming kind of south. So we didn't feel comfortable with that. Maria said she was going to throw herself out of a window if it passed, amongst other things. God bless you.
She's right. God forbid she didn't do that.
God forbid. And that, like, what? So we did, for a million different reasons. We didn't go through that aspect. So, like, it's an issue. I'm just not sure how much.
That's a small issue.
But right. So I guess what I'm saying is, like I'm hearing this and like so I'll say a few things. One, crash data is crash data. So DOT sees it, we can see it. So I think, you know, because there are things, near misses don't get recorded. They're annoying and they're scary, but and that's so. But the red light thing, the red light, people get hurt. Like every nth time there's running red lights, and when we have intersections where that happens a lot, and it sounds like it's a big intersection for that to happen. And you know, I probably come as close as I ever have. I've never done it in my life, but I've come as close as I can sitting on Edward Morgan. So like, then what are we left? Kind of what are we left with in terms of what's important? And so I think I don't think of this as a reso item. I do think this is something that we can follow up on. And it sounds like MP, you know, Manhattan Borough President is just of like, is there nothing we can do about the crossing, you know, the crossing time? And is there any room, although I feel like this was looked at, to kind of relieve that problem of the back pressure on 158th going east, because of the amount of people that make left turns. I sort of feel like they looked at it and they redesigned that whole thing, and then it would have put there, but it's worth following up because now we've been able to watch it go.
I mean, to me, there's two major issues since we can't do the red light cameras or the speed cameras.
Well,
Okay, we can, whatever. The two major issues then would be a left turn arrow from Edward Morgan onto 158th, because that's where a huge number of problems happen. And also, I don't know how we address the bike lane because they put it in and I don't know that they'll remove it. But I think having the bike lane there has created so much more danger than just the cars. For
Yeah.
so many reasons.
I agree.
I mean, scooters, like illegal electrified things, you know, is its own thing. So, and for better, for worse, people like, no, I don't think the DOT is not in the business of removing bike lanes and bikes, you know, and I'm just quoting the queen of TNT chairs who actually does the trainings for MBPO with MBPO on transportation issues, is it's not supported by the facts. People get injured or killed by cars. And you might have a near miss with a bike and it's very memorable, but thank God while it happens very occasionally, it is not a source of issue in the same way as cars injuring people.
Right, except that this is such an angle. The street is so steep that I know some people in my building who watched somebody actually on a bike going so fast and couldn't stop and slammed on the brakes and went flying and was in the hospital for 2 months.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's so steep.
Before Jim Berlin cautions me, we're not really supposed to have a lot of back and forth, but I do think we can, you know, maybe in the absence of red light cameras now, and all the things you're describing, might be worth a try to see if we can get uniform traffic enforcement, even for a little while, because sometimes that gets people, you know, it might be worth a try.
And you know what they're going to say? They don't have enough staff to do something like that. And it's the same thing with the police department, that people want police officers assigned to every corner on the city of New York, and that's not possible.
Right,
So,
but when we
you know,
but when we talk about,
mhm.
you know, hot spots in neighborhoods, we have a hot spot around the George Washington Bridge. You know, like that doesn't mean they're capable of zero. So I you know, to take some direction that in the very, very limited resources that exist for that, and some of it doesn't come from the precinct, some of it comes from a different command, that we say like, okay, this is in our top 3, let's say, priorities for uniformed enforcement.
May I have a suggestion? I'm sorry. Maybe on this particular issue, maybe we should try to request the, I don't know who is in charge of the DOT, not the volunteer, like it's what you call it, the auxiliary, like the one that they have, the construction along One Riverside Drive West, that they
The
have the
flag
yellow.
people
They
that
have
says
a yellow
no,
jacket.
no.
Maybe they can assign someone just to make sure that no, it's not
No,
possible. Okay.
No, that goes with construction. All right.
Okay.
So, Julie, thank you for this. I think, yeah, let me follow up with DOT and just kind of try to get some visibility on what might be possible. And maybe we could they can do a walkthrough with us, or, like on the committee, or just see what they're thinking and go from there. And then let me think a little bit on, this traffic enforcement thing is like my cause celeb. That maybe, as I hear myself talk, that we consider in the future doing some sort of resolution that sort of directs the traffic enforcement command of what we consider, again, hotspots in the community, and say, again, understanding what limited resources exist for traffic cops that some attention at that area, just to kind of get a handle on what's going on, but maybe not. But let me think about that. But I appreciate how much time people have dedicated to this and their attention to these issues of safety and coming together and getting organized and making the contacts. And we'll certainly, feel free to drop me emails and keep me posted, and I will try to do the same. I, with that, would love to conclude this meeting.
Can I just say thank you very much for giving me the time to do this?
No, it's been great, and it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So far, I'm not sure what we might have on the agenda for January. So if people have ideas, certainly email me in the intercession.
Yeah,
Wait,
I have a
Allegra, do
question.
you have a new hand?
Yeah,
Is that
I have a
Yes.
question.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Are you still getting flack about the Washington Bridge and the busway project up there?
No, I mean, we passed a resolution, and that was that.
Okay. So there's nothing more we need to do about that?
No, I mean, we passed a resolution, so I think that went out pretty promptly after the meeting. The office seemed to be moving on it fairly quickly. It is interesting that there's an article in Streets Blog about how overwhelming, the response, the bridges, like the Brooklyn Bridge and the Queensboro Bridge, for their new bike lane, like it's just been an overwhelming response. And this article was about the Queensboro Bridge. And it'll be interesting to see what happens on the Washington Bridge.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that's going along. Mary?
Did we ever get an answer on the 193rd Street M3 stop northbound?
We got half an answer, and thank you for the reminder, because it's the answer also didn't make complete sense. So there was partly an issue of work being done, but there also seems to be something about the bus stop itself, but you can't just permanently remove one without us hearing about it. So I still have to chase down, like, what you're not going to put it back, like that I don't think they can just do that by fiat. But I did leave a message for MTA today. So
Yeah, because I need something. I need to respond to the people up in that area,
no, I appreciate you reminding me. Yeah, just pepper me pepper me with things on that because, okay.
And also, I hate to say it, but these Broadway change, the changes on Broadway with the M7 and with the BX7 and the M100 are really creating havoc. I mean, for instance, you get to a bus stop and the bus stop is loaded up with cars that are parked and double parked in the bus stop. The bus comes along. I mean, even, you see that it's full up with cars. So you try to go to the next bus stop because you're not going to be able to get on the bus because it can't get to the curb. If you're disabled, you can't get on in the middle of Broadway because even if the ramp is like this. So you try to go to the next bus stop, but the next bus stop is 4 blocks away. And if you're disabled, I'm sorry, but that is, it's just impossible.
The NYPD.
So the disabled are really put out. They can't travel, period.
Okay, but there cannot be things in the bus stop, period. Never, nada. If
There always is.
Then it needs to be enforced.
The bus stop in front of the armory.
To be enforced.
Always
I don't
has
care
trucks,
what their
buses and whatever's.
Yeah. So can you make a list of ones that are prone to this, and let's have Ebenezer take it to NYPD, because when there were issues when the busway rolled out, and so there was all these issues around, it created a different traffic situation at Broadway. They sent people out, and I don't know if they did it for a couple of weeks, and they ticketed everything. And that in that bus stop by McDonald's and everything. And then it's been better. And it absolutely cannot be the case that there is something parked in a bus stop. End of story. That's not a thing. We don't design bus routes around the fact that certain bus stops get filled with cars and not to mention double parked. I mean, that's appalling. I mean, we cannot redesign streets and our bus system because we can't get things enforced. It's not the way it goes. I've really had it with this that everybody's turning themselves into pretzels.
Go Debbie, go Debbie.
Ugh, I'm at the end of it. I'm at the end of it. They take 75 parking spots at Broadway and 183rd, and so that we can. But that's okay. That's okay. And they can let everybody double park in bus stop. How is that even possible? Okay. I'm gonna take a breath.
What do you think I go through every day trying to get up and down Broadway with my rollator?
One of the big issues that the late Edith Prentice make it a life out of bringing out all these issues and trying to get enforcement, trying to get things to be changed. But the thing is that also we have taken so much areas on our street to allow. I mean, I'm not against bicycle or anything like that.
Okay, all right. We're not really getting
it's really a major issue.
Bike lanes. Mary, can you send me the bus stops that have been most seriously impacted on a consistent basis?
Yep.
And it just this that cannot be. That cannot be.
San Nicolas Avenue 109, the one that Mary is talking about, San Nicolas Avenue 194th Street, nearby Isabella Home. That area is really, really something that needs to be taken, very seriously.
It's not 190, it's 193rd.
Right. The Armory, the Armory area, when there are games and things like that also, but also we have to think about that the hospital and Columbia University are around there, ambulances come and goes, and it's just a major issue.
Yeah, but I think Mary's talking about the The Broadway bus stops. So yeah, get that to me and then we can let's work it through with Ebenezer and, I
I
mean,
can help if you need me to, okay?
all right. Yeah, that would be great, Maria, because to the extent any of them are in the 33rd, you know, they sort
Yeah,
of,
I mean, I addressed one particular bus stop at the precinct council meeting. And that was improved. It's not perfect, but it's greatly improved. So,
I mean,
but there's other
then-
stops. And, that just happened to be a stop that I was concerned about at the moment because it was because the school bus couldn't let children off there safely.
I mean, there is in that packet of resolutions from open plans, there is a lot of stuff about blocking bus lanes, but it also, I imagine, applies to bus stops that, and bike lanes and stuff like that, like, can you bring citizen, like letting citizens identify spots where it's happening in real time, but yeah, let's just, I think it's fair for us to ask this stuff gets dealt with in real time. When it's happening, they just need to get somebody over there. Like,
These
Okay.
these particular bus stops that I'm talking about, I don't know, I can't say it's 24/7 because I'm not out there 24/7, but it's during normal working hours,
it's unacceptable. Thank you, Mary. I'm irate on your behalf, on all of our behalf. Okay, sorry, Allegra, we'll give you the last word.
Thank you. First off, glad you mentioned Intro 501, which allows citizen enforcement of cars in the bus lanes as well as the bike lanes. I don't know if you've written a resolution. Now, they've got 50 co-sponsors in city council, but if you haven't written, like, hey, CB12 thinks it'd be nice to have our bus lanes be for buses and our bike lanes be for bike, it might be a good time to do that. Second thing is that the Plan NYC folks, they have great ideas, but they have a lot of ideas. So maybe each monthly meeting, you could just kind of like go through their proposals just as a talking point to discuss in the board meetings. And then I have the data request, which I emailed you about. Like, in general, we don't know exactly what the bike lane usages are because we don't really count that all too well. And I know folks in the Bronx, like, they recently put a bike lane counter on the Willis Avenue Bridge. When we get the Washington Avenue bridge going, or was it Avenue? Sorry, the Washington Bridge going, be nice to make sure we have counters there and have, in general, more bike counters. And then I mentioned that I believe that shutting down the Greenway has really decreased bike usage in the neighborhood. All the bike stands are always full. I don't see people tooling around on city bikes hardly ever anymore. And I have the analytical skills to convert that, to use that as a proxy for bike usage in the neighborhood. And because Inwood is kind of this closed off zone and it's very finite and there's no city bike beyond us, but I need help getting the data. And it would be nice if I didn't have to use proxies in the future, if they actually had estimates for how many people are using the bikes. And then my last little tiny teeny thing is that they did put a stop sign on my street corner by the new Amber Charter School, but no one stops there because there's 2 little stop signs and nothing painted on the road. And it might as well not be there because nobody's stopping. So enforcement would be great, but I think a lot of people just don't realize it's there because it's hard to see. So we need paint. Thank you.
All right, hopefully that they're going to do that, but that's good news that it got there. I didn't know what happened with the warrant study, so that's great news. And thank you to you and to Dave and all who did advocacy on that. Oh, Jackie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
No
ignore
worries.
you tonight.
No, I just raised my hand. No worries. I just wanted for that stop sign. What was the location again? That Allegra had mentioned.
Oh, sorry,
It's
Allegra.
sorry,
which
the
word
stop
is
sign
that?
is at Park Terrace East and West 215. And since I've got you on the line, I would love to have another stop sign at Park Terrace West and West 215, because you go from a two-way to a one-way. And because we do not daylight our intersections, that means at pickup time, it's kind of, you got to get into the street where the cars are going kind of crazy to see if cars are coming, which is a tall order for, kids who are being dismissed from a K-8 school. Yes, but
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. We can look to see if we can have a study done for stop sign, and that was for Park Terrace West and West 215.
that is correct. That currently does not have a stop sign.
Okay.
And on Park Terrace East, they did install a stop sign at West 215 Street, but everyone ignores it. It's hard to see. There's nothing different on the road. So some paint would be nice. I know I usually say paint is an infrastructure, but I'm gonna, if you have bricks that you can put in there instead of paint, I think that having alternate surfaces would be even better. But I know to manage my expectations. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the flag.
All right, thanks, Jackie. Okay. With that, move to adjourn.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. Thank you, everybody. See you at the general.
Oh, yeah.